Well, good afternoon, everyone. It is Wednesday. It is a Wednesday, and it's time for Wednesdays with Wayne. Thank you for taking time out of your week, out of your day to join me today. I really appreciate y'all as always. We are going to talk today about probably one of the biggest issues in real estate, and that's online lead conversion. Now, there's some reasons why this is becoming a bigger and bigger topic, all right? And it deals with consumer behavior. We've talked about this before. I'm going to lay out some ideas and thoughts that I have about where the consumer is, and specifically tell you some things today that I think are very, very important for you moving forward. I know from my work across the country, there are a lot of people that are, I've used the word stuck a lot, and I guess I will continue to use that word for today. They're stuck. What we're seeing is a lot of people are starting to realize that maybe what they've been doing all these years doesn't work as well as it did anymore. We've been talking about that on these sessions, about this change, this shift in consumer behavior. And the online play is big. It's really big. It is the default setting for more and more people. I'll tell you some real life examples, some real life stories today that I've run into over the last few weeks. But we're going to tackle this, and I'm going to lay out the idea, the strategies. I'll be really frank with you. Converting an online lead is not that much different than converting any kind of a lead. The same dynamics are at play. It's just a matter of, will we do the work to put it in place? So with that opening, here we go. As always, you can stop me anytime you want to and ask a question. We will have time for questions at the end, and then I'll tell you what our next session is going to be at the end, and that's when we're really going to probably dig into it even more deeply today. But thank you again for taking the time. Wednesdays with Wayne, online lead conversion strategies. So as we've said before, regardless of the geographic area or the size of your market, the issues of being an agent are all the same. Number one, do you have a sound financial model? Are you working within a model, or are you throwing ideas out there and trying some things and then not really tracking them, and then trying another thing and not really tracking that? And that's what makes you a tweener is my definition. The second thing is consistent lead generation. But the thing that we're going to talk about today is consistent lead conversion. It is a huge issue. It has always been a huge issue in real estate. It is not something that, quite honestly, we talk about enough because it's not real sexy. It's not real cool. It's cooler to talk about being an influencer and things like that. But being an influencer and then not being able to get that to turn into real estate commissions is, I guess in my world, somewhat pointless. So what's the biggest change that's happened in our industry in the last 5 years? And I would tell you that the subtleties of this change, I actually wrote about it 19 years ago, but the subtleties of the change started about 5 years ago, and they really have ramped up really in the last, I would say, 18 months. I think this is a phenomenon that has really come home in 2022 and the first part of 23. And here's the issue. While real estate is local, what is driving today's consumer as it relates to a real estate purchase or sale now, new dynamic, what's driving them is not local. And it's finally hit our industry. It's hit a lot of other industries before it, but it's here and it's real. And I'll explain to you what's going on. So the current marketplace you have is what I'm going to call the new normal, and I would go a step further and tell you this is what the marketplace is now going to be. We have just, and I've said this before, we've just changed as consumers. So what is the new normal? So I always say there's about 45 different ways for you to generate business. Well, now this thing is very quickly getting in alignment. Statistically, from the deals that are happening, from the conversations I'm having with people, it has two distinct rails. Number one is an online rail, okay? And that online rail consists of two bifurcations. Number one, we've talked about it. We did a session about it about a month ago. You've got the Google thing. So Google reviews, Google business pages, massive, huge. That's where the seller is going, okay? Sellers are now going to Google to find a real estate agent. Previous model, previous iterations of our industry, sellers went to print advertising. They now go to Google. Second thing that's happening, everyone is going to Google to verify an agent. Even if that agent was referred to them, they're going to Google to read reviews about that agent. So if you're out there right now and you don't have a Google business page and you're not trying to capitalize on Google reviews, guys, you have to do this. It is what is happening, because you can now, in today's environment, get a referral, get a strong referral. And I will promise you the first move that person will make that does not know you is they will go to Google. And if you don't have any Google presence whatsoever, they're not going to look at you with a favorable light, and you're going to have to be trying to overcome that throughout the process. The second side of the equation on the buy side is basically Zillow, but we would throw Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia, and anybody else you want to name in that world. These are the two pathways that people are using, absent incredibly strong referral. So if you're maximizing the referral play, okay, you're still going to have a Google presence. You're still going to have to understand how to convert leads when they come in from an online source, because this is where the consumer is going. Okay, this is where the consumer really is. Okay, and what's happening is the marketplace has moved, and the realtor community is lagging. Okay, we tend to do this, right? We tend to lag. The market moves in an area, and then it takes us a while to get our sea legs under us and get to where the marketplace is. That's exactly what we have going on right now, okay? So in today's environment, I think you have to master both rails. I think you have to be a player in both of these arenas, and then we can start talking about the other things that you're doing. I had a client this week tell me that they've been doing some geographic farming, a lot of geographic farming actually, and it's been okay, but it hasn't been great. And they're going to take that spend and they are going to now put it more into a Google play, because they're capitalizing in a large way on Google. They're going to start running more Google ads, trying to get more traffic. All right. So these are the decisions that a business person needs to be making. This again goes back to the financial model. What is your financial model? All right. How much money are you spending in the pursuit of new business? That could be on the referral side, strictly, loving all over your past clients and having events and all the things we talked about. But is there a spend going on to try to get new people if you're trying to scale, right? Ultimately, what we want to see happen is we want to get to a total referral-based business. We used to get there by running ads, holding open, doing those kind of things. This is just a new environment that we have to go do. So we've got to master both rails. Understand, please, you're always competing. But this time, your competition is a nameless, faceless purveyor of information. Just think how many times in a day you go to Google just to find something out, right? That's what's going on now, all right? So the purveyors of information, what are they doing? They're acquiring data on consumers, and then they're turning that into a lead, all right? That's what's going on. So you're competing against an online valuation model. You're competing against things as stories that I Google. What should I look for in a real estate agent? You're now starting to compete against AI. I'm not trying to scare y'all. Y'all are fantastic people. You do a great job. The job that we do has to be even better in today's environment. Absent a strong referral, and here's the new dynamic, and an even stronger process, and I'll explain that to you in a second. Consumers go online to gather information, like I said earlier, which then generates a lead. And in fact, that's really where they start, right? They start looking at properties on Zillow. And that generates perhaps a phone call to an agent. I'm going to play a Zillow call for you here in a while, because I'm going to lay out what's going on behind the scenes. If the person, okay, so I go online because I saw a house and I'll look on Zillow to see about it. I want to know more about it. And so Zillow will do what? Zillow will hook me up with an agent. If the receiving agent's process is outstanding, the consumer will work with that agent. Now, what do we know from Zillow? I just use Zillow because it's the dominant player. They have more traffic than everybody else does. But it's this way with everything, with every source. What do we know about Zillow conversion rates? They're incredibly low. They're about 4%. Zillow would tell you that if you're doing 4%, you're doing really well. I have clients doing way more than 4%. Okay? But the difference is their process is outstanding. Their dialogue is outstanding. And if you get the processes down and you stay with them, and you know that it's an unbelievable experience, then the consumer would work with you. And this is the game, this is the mentality that we have to have when we start playing in an online arena. So I've talked to you about the mirror test before, and one of my clients asked me this question on Monday, and the more I thought about it, I thought, that's really accurate. There's a new mirror test. Is your customer experience throughout the process better than what a customer can experience online? That's the mirror test now. Not are you really good at this anymore, right? It's not your definition of being good at this. Are you providing a higher level of customer experience throughout the process than what I can find online? The third parties are hoping that you're not. And as an industry, I would tell you the industry is not. But I know this creates a great opportunity for those of us that want to do the work. So here's some facts, I believe some facts about this. Number one, the goal of any contact is to identify a potential client, not to try to turn everyone into a client. The goal of any process is to weed through the people who aren't going to do anything. It's a vast number of the online world. They're not going to do anything. But you have to politely learn how to work your way through that. And then when you find someone who is going to do something, we have to get near them. Fact number two, you can never control the quality of any lead from any source. You can only control the process that you take the consumer through. Now, here's how we know this. I have people, and maybe you've said this, maybe I've said it over the years. Well, I had to keep working with them because they were referred to me. Even though they were referred to you, they weren't a high quality lead, right? So we never can control the quality. It doesn't matter where they come from. It doesn't matter where I see people online all the time. That's why I've never purchased a lead. That's why I don't do this and I don't do that. But even if somebody refers you somebody and you feel like you have to work with them, sometimes they're not any good either. So you can't control that. Fact number three. And this came up in a conversation literally last night. And I was asking someone who had purchased a home about their experience with their agent. And they said, you know what, so here's what I mean about the process throughout the transaction. I said, how would you rate it? She said, well, they were good. They were good. And this was an agent that does really well. But this is kind of what I'm starting to see in the industry. And she said, they were really good. They were really great at the closing, and they solved a lot of problems for us there. And I said, well, have you heard from them a lot since the closing? And she said, no. So I haven't heard. And they've been in the house now probably 3 months. We got one note from them. I said, oh, okay. And she goes, you know what, though? She said, we had some work that we had to have done, and I sent them a text and asked them if they could recommend somebody to me. And she goes, and then I didn't hear anything back. And so she said, I Googled, and I got a couple of bids from people, and then they finally texted me back and said, oh, sorry, I forgot to text you back. Here's my person. And said, so then I called their person. She said, I wish at the closing, they would have given me a list or given us a list of like their people that they use for stuff like this, because I would have just called them. Now, if you're familiar with Pete Grosso, out on Long Island. He's referred to as Pocket Pete. He has his own app that is full of all of his approved suppliers. So he just asks his clients to download the app, and then you have Pete in your pocket. He's got a cool little logo and stuff. I did it through a company called App Nectar, if you want to research that. But it was very interesting because she said, then his guy came out, his guy was higher. So now I'm kind of confused. Is this guy really better? And she made the comment to me. She goes, she said, sometimes your 10 out of 10 could maybe be a client 7 out of 10. And that really resonated with me. So that's why I wrote this in here today. Your 10 out of 10 could be a 7 out of 10. In today's environment, guys, we got to go for a 13 out of 10. We called it the boutique experience in other sessions that we've done, right? But I'm watching this play out week after week in real time. We have got to upgrade the quality of our services. The industry will not do it, okay? The industry in and of itself is not going to do it, but if you guys will do the work, you will be able to take over whatever market share you decide you want to. As I've said before, everybody talks about trying to scale their businesses. And there's those 3 simple rules, right? Be good, be nice, and stay in touch, and your business will scale. But now we have to layer a little bit more into that and say, we have to provide what the customer expects and then go above and beyond that. So the goal, and here we go, never lose a potential client due to your process. Have your process be so tight that you're never going to lose anybody because of that. Now, you might lose them because another agent had a deeper relationship with them, and relationship eats all the rest of the stuff for lunch, right? I mean, it just does. If you have a strong enough relationships with enough people, you don't have to play any of these games, theoretically. Relationship is the key. It's what we all want to get to, and yet I know as an industry, we're not doing the great work there that we need to be doing. So the goal is to never lose a potential client due to your process. Because overall, the marketplace, and we've said this before, right? The marketplace has changed faster than the industry has. Talk about these NAR lawsuits. I think what we have going on is the marketplace is saying, we don't care about your realtor rules anymore. We want to deal with a realtor who will really help us, right? And it's coming out in the form of unfair that I have to pay commissions, but that, to me, that's really not the deal. I had a conversation with somebody this week, trying to protect realtor commissions. We've got to make sure we protect how the agents get paid. And I'm like, that's the wrong narrative to me. The right narrative is we have to help y'all provide a level of service that's so high that I want to pay you for it, right? I want you to make this transaction that I was going to do anyway. I want you to make it so much better than I ever imagined that I want to pay you. I want this experience again. That's where we are. Talked about the scrolling society. So just as an example that popped up last night in a conversation that I just told you about, what was interesting was throughout the process, they were Googling. So like if I call you and I have a question and I'm with you, right? I've put a house under contract with you, or I've listed my house with you, and I have a question about something. I don't know what, something. And I perhaps text you or I call you and I don't hear back from you quickly. What will I do as a consumer? I'll Google it. We all do this. We all Google. I know I'm wearing you out with this, but I'm just watching it. I'm very passionate about where we're heading and trying to help people get ahead of it. We'll just Google in the middle of something. And what that does is that lessens my reliance upon you and your information flow. And the more the little chinks get in the armor, the more the next time around, what will I do? I'll just start online. This is where we are because we scroll a lot. So the game has changed. Online reviews now carry equal to greater weight than personal referrals. Online reviews are checked on. Online is checked throughout the real estate transaction at this point. So the decision every agent makes in the future, discount or boutique experience, obviously I want to see you go boutique experience. But this opens up this whole can of worms on the buyer side of the equation. You look statistically at the agent population in any MLS, the bottom 80% of the people are more heavily skewed to the buyer side of the equation. They're doing all their transactions on the buy side. This is why this lawsuit is such a gut check for the industry. We've got to be providing a boutique experience in order to be able to get people to want to hire you to represent them in the purchase of their home. What is going to happen is you're going to have people that will master that skill set, and you're going to have other people who will not master the skill set, but they'll do it for $500 or whatever. It'll be like Uber drivers driving around showing you property. Well, I want you to go to the boutique side. That's where the money is. That's where long-term longevity is. That's where quality of life is always trying to say, hey, how do I provide a better experience? What can I do that's better from the beginning to the end and then post as you become one of my referral sources? There's 3 types of agents. We've gone through this. We got the pro. They're focused on 2 or 3 of the possible options. They know every nuance. We've talked about this. We have the tweeners who dabble. Right now, a lot of tweeners are stuck. They're not sure which way to dabble. Then we have the rookie. They chase everything, and they have so much going on, but they never really get anything accomplished. Well, that's the 3 types of agents, but I've now discovered there's a 4th type of agent. That's the old pro, the trusted old pro, the successful agent who is either unwilling or unable to adapt their process to the new consumer model. I've had these people come to me. I have had, and I don't want to say it's hundreds of people, but it's more than 2 handfuls who have come to me and said, my stuff's not working anymore. The way I was doing this is no longer getting me the appointment. The way I was doing this is no longer getting me, I don't understand what I need to change. That is a lot of agents right now. I mean, I talk to people all over the country, as y'all know, and we start talking about when you look at marketplaces, there are people who have always done really, really well. And all of a sudden their business is 25, 30% of what it was 2 years ago. And these are the people that are having a hard time adapting, man. They're waiting, and I don't want anybody on here to wait. These guys are waiting for rates to drop. They're waiting for inventory to come back, and they're waiting. It's not, when it comes back, it won't come back the way it used to be. It'd be like saying, I'm gonna go long into newspaper ads. I'm gonna dominate the Homes magazine, right? And it ain't coming back, guys. Those things went away. It's a new dynamic in our industry. So let's talk strategies, all right? These are the age-old strategies that we've always had for lead conversion, and yet for the ages, we've never been really great at it. So we got 3 kinds of time: play time, paid time, and what I'm going to tell you now is if you're an agent in the field, which I know you are because you're on here today, you got to spend more time in prep time than you ever have, in learning time, figuring out what you're going to go do, reading and studying, setting up a Google business page, paying the money to be Google verified with the green check mark. I think that's money that you need to pay in today's world, because I had this conversation with somebody this week. As a consumer, right or wrong, if you are Google screened, you know what? You'll get my attention, more so than someone who's not Google screened. The verification process on Google is very, very strong. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. We've got to spend more time than we ever have in prep time as we prep for this changing market that is changing every day behind the scenes. And again, we lag as an industry. Every industry tends to lag, and we don't want to do that. Clients aren't coming to you for information. That ship sailed a long time ago. They're coming to you for strategy and communication. And if you're on these calls, we know, for these Zooms, we know that you have great strategy and great communication. Because Nate said we're drowning in information but starved for knowledge. So even though I go to Google, I would like it much better if I had my trusted advisor that I could call that would just tell me who to call. or maybe that would make that phone call for me, right? That's what we're really looking for as humans, is we're looking for that connection with people. We have to differentiate, all right? 3 issues is the initial conversation, the materials, and the follow-up. We've gone through this before, but I want to give you a little different take on it today, a touch different take. Let's talk initial conversation. The bad news is you got to outsmart the other realtors. I'm going to give you a case study that I did literally yesterday in somebody's office to prove this to you. The good news is it's not that tough to do, all right? So let's talk an online buyer lead, an incoming call from a buyer, all right? Number one, you have to is a big word. Y'all are crazy if you don't have a buyer questionnaire in front of you at all times. And the only reason you wouldn't have it is if these questions are so ingrained in you, you don't need it anymore. That it's such internalized dialogue that you don't need it anymore. And that is because that is the beginning of the process, is our first chance to communicate verbally with one of these people, right? Trying to determine, are they a client? Asking the proper questions in the proper order is massive. Always answer the phone with your name and company name. Always. Don't ever answer the phone with hello. Always answer the phone with your name and your company name. Avoid long, awkward silences on the calls. And the only way you can do that is if you have a crib sheet of questions in front of you that you ask, just to keep the conversation moving, or if the questions are so internalized, you couldn't keep them from coming out. Master the concept of answer, ask. They're going to ask you questions. You need to answer them, but you have to work and prep. This is the prep time part. You have to train yourself to turn around and follow up with a question of your own. What will happen in the dynamics of these conversations that we have with people is in the beginning, they'll be asking questions, you'll be answering, and you'll be asking, and then it will turn, and it's so subtly, no one realizes it, and you'll be asking all of the questions. Understand that this conversation is a give and take, okay? It's completely a give and take conversation. It's like dancing with someone. You let them lead for a while, and then you lead, and then they get to lead again, and then you come back and lead. But don't lead with, are you working with an agent? Do not have that be your first question. Do not lead with, are you pre-approved? In fact, don't ever ask, are you pre-approved? Always say, when you purchase, will you be paying cash or getting a loan? Always. And yet, to this day, I still hear people, first question, are you pre-approved? If they don't ask, are you working with an agent? I'm going to play a recording that I think sums this up pretty well. Bear with, it's about 4 minutes long. I'll probably cut it off before it's really done, but I want you to hear this. This is a call that was sent to me the other day.
Thank you. We're connecting you to a local agent now.
Hi, Brooklyn. This is Tyler Cork here with Remax Energy. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. Hey, I understand that you're inquiring about the property out in Reno. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. So you guys want to see it today, or what's going on?
Yes, if you have an availability around 5:30, 6 o'clock, I'll be available then.
Okay, you said at 5:30?
Yeah, about 5:36.
Okay. I just want to confirm the address I have here is 1050 South Reno Avenue in El Reno?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, cool. Okay, let me see if I can get this set up for 5:30.
Okay.
So I looked this up here. Tell me, what's your current situation? Are you guys in the market for a new home?
Yes. We have been looking around quite a bit. There's no rush, definitely no rush, but we are looking around. We're pretty interested. Price keeps going up. I'll look at it. Yeah. How are you guys going about looking? Are you just looking on Zillow or? We're really looking everywhere. I've got a realtor that we would be using, but I'm really just looking everywhere.
Okay. The realtor that you said you guys are working with, what is their name?
Her name is, she's with Bricks Realty. Oh my gosh, I just brain farted.
Have you sat down with this agent and have they taken the time to sit down and go through the process with you?
No, we have not done that yet. Well, we want to find a house that we really like first before we do any of that.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I will say, one of the first steps is really getting an agent in your corner. The reason why is because we can give you access to properties and help you with your search. So like with me and my clients, what I like to do is I like to sit down first, get an idea of what you're looking for, what your wants and needs are, and then we can get you a plan together, figure out how you're going to pay, whether you have to pay cash or get a loan. Most people get a loan, so I can get you hooked up with a local lender if you haven't already started that process. Have you guys spoken with any lenders?
Yes, we have. We haven't figured out about how much we will get pre-approved for or any of that. We haven't done any of that yet either. Like I said, we're just wanting to wait. We know about what our price range would probably be and what we'd want to spend, but we're not.
How much is that? How much?
I don't think we would want to spend anything over $220, especially for right now. This isn't like a forever home. This is just somewhere where we want to start. Sure.
Right. You guys own a home now, or are you renting?
We are renting.
You're renting. Okay. Are you guys in like a lease term, or are you just month to month?
We're just month to month. It's kind of like a family deal with my dad.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
So you're not tied down to anything. You can move at any time.
We can move anytime we want to. We can stay however long we want.
That's good. I have some clients I'm working with right now, and their lease is almost up. And they're like, we need to be out by this date.
Yeah, I'm glad you don't have to deal with that.
Okay, well, I can certainly set this up for this afternoon. But I would really like to sit down and kind of get a better idea of what you guys are looking for. Would that be something you guys would have time for this afternoon after we see the house?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, I will set this up for 5:30, and what I'm going to do is as soon as we hop off the phone, I'm going to send you a text message with all my contact information. The number you called was Zillow, so I'm going to send you my direct contact.
Okay. The reason I wanted you guys to hear this was if you have the buyer questionnaire, that was textbook, virtually every question off of the buyer questionnaire. That's a guy named Tyler Clark. He's been in the business a couple of years, doing fabulously well. He's in Oklahoma. And to me, that is textbook of taking someone through a process and asking the key questions that need to be asked. I played this yesterday for one of my clients and their manager. And after we played it, the manager looked at me and said, well, that's really like how agents handle these phone calls, isn't it? I mean, isn't that how everybody would handle one of these? That just makes sense. And I said, well, let's test this out. So I called another real estate company. I will not name them. But I called a real estate company and I said I was driving by this house. I'd like some information about it. I ultimately, via the receptionist, I got to the listing agent and I said, you have this house, there's a house on this street. I'd like some information. For the next minute and a half to 2 minutes, and I used to have a thing called the babbler. This agent babbled information to me about the property. It's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath. It's priced at $335. Now it's had a lot of upgrades. It's got this, it's got that, blah, blah, blah. Never asked me, literally in 2 minutes, they never asked me one question, not one. I finally interjected and said, can you tell me the size of the master bedroom? And while never telling me the size of the master bedroom, she went on another minute-long dissertation about the features of the house. I ended the call with, thank you very much. She never asked me a question. Now, here's the reason I want to bring this up so much to you guys. I was playing this game 20 years ago. Like literally we would try to prove to people what was going on. And back then it was sign calls and ad calls. But the online world is exactly like the sign call, ad call world was 20 years ago. And sadly, that customer experience is the same as it was 20 years ago. Now, what I know about Tyler Clark is he was playing red light, green light with this person. There's another guy, and I do a lot of work with them. There's another guy in the office named Donnie Woodard, who's a master at this as well. And what they do is they get these calls, and it's like, I got to identify if this is somebody that's good. Now, Tyler was given indications that he thought this was somebody he might work with. I thought it very interesting when the lady said, well, now we have an agent that we're working with. Most agents would go, well, you need to call them to go see this house, but not Tyler. Tyler goes, well, great. Who are you working with? Using the strategy or the theory that says most of the time they can't name it if you'll ask. I ran into this 20 years ago in sales. So, is the format different? Yes, but we're delivering the same stuff now to the consumer that we did 20 years ago. And I think that's why you're seeing more and more of they now have another option, I guess would be the way I would say this. And guys, this is crucial. This is really, really important stuff. So after you have that initial phone call, and I haven't had a chance to talk to Tyler to see where this ever went with these people, okay? But I love the process. I'm proud of him for staying in the process, asking the questions as they needed to be asked. Very nice phone call. But if someone says, hey, we're working with somebody, great, who are you working with? I had this happen to me years ago on the listing side, and I'll explain that one to you in a second.
Thank you. Where can it?
On the other side, we've got the pre-listing questionnaire, right? We've got the pre-listing questionnaire. You've got to have these things with you at all times, guys. Wow, it's such a huge deal to me. You've got to have this because it allows you to be professional and differentiate yourself at the drop of a hat. Here's the key seller questions off of that sheet. If a conversation is turning anywhere and I find out, let's say, by the way, that they said, well, yeah, we have a house and we would need to sell it first. Well, great. Do you have a price in mind for your house? Another key question, what would that be? Are you going to be interviewing realtors or have you talked to any other realtors? Great. Who are you talking to? How did you hear about me or us, right? I noticed that it came in because a lot of times what's happening in this world now, things are coming in like as an office call, perhaps, but really it's not an office call. It's like a Google call. Okay, the real genesis of it was Google. That's starting to happen more and more with people. Are you going to be interviewing realtors? A lot of people are like, oh, I would never want to ask that question of a seller. I don't want to introduce the fact of interviewing people. If they're going to interview, they're going to interview. I think it's important that you know who they're talking to. I had this happen to me years ago. I took a call, said, are you going to be interviewing any other realtors? Yes. I said, great. Who are you going to talk to? And they said, Carol Jones. Now, in our market, Carol Jones Realtors was a tremendously large company, 400 or 500 agents. But I knew Carol herself. Carol hadn't sold property in 40 years. And so when they said, yeah, we're going to be talking to Carol Jones, I said, oh, are you going to be talking to Carol herself? Knowing full well there's no way they could. Well, no, not Carol herself. Well, great. What agent at Carol Jones are you going to be talking to? And they couldn't answer it. So what I knew was they were going to call the office and just ask for an agent. They were going to get routed to floor duty, and I knew I could compete in that arena. This is why these questions are so important, right? These questions help you not only figure out where the consumer is, it also helps to build your confidence in a lot of cases. Or conversely, yes, we're going to be talking to XYZ, and you know that's a worthy competitor. That's fine. But the more we can know going into these situations, the better off we're going to be. And then that's when we get to trust our process. Understand your value today is not interpretation of information, and I will beat you guys over the head with this. We syndicated our way out of information about 15 years ago in this business when we let all the portals have access to our information. So the public can get the information. The question is, Can you interpret the information at a higher level than I can as a member of the public? And sadly, most in the industry can't, even though members of the general public most of the time only do this 4 or 5 times in their life. I mean, you know, the stats tell us that people are now living in their house 13, 18 years, something like that. Well, golly, the marketplace and the business in and of itself is so much different than it was 13 years ago. So we have to be the interpreters of information. 4-step process, I've talked to you about this before. We've got to determine, do they have a desire? Tyler, in that call, found out they had a desire to buy. They didn't really have a time frame yet, but they had a desire to buy, right? When I made the phone call yesterday on the listing, she had no desire. She had no idea whether I had a desire because she didn't even ask me. Secondly, do they have the ability? Tyler has now determined they don't have the ability yet because they haven't been into a lender. Now, apparently in this case, Tyler was willing to go meet them at the property and think he could get them into a process where they could go start getting the ability to do this. Would they like some help? Well, she agreed to have a sit down with him to discuss the process that her agent that she couldn't name had not done. And could he interview? And that's what he was going for with the interview. You contrast that phone call, because he clicked all of those boxes in his own way with the dialogue. You'll get a recording. You can listen to it over and over again. As opposed to the agent that I called yesterday. They never literally asked me one question. And you know, like it or not, this is the key, right? This is the key to being able to convert these leads, is how strong, how great of a conversation can you have with someone at first meeting? If you get 4 yeses, you now have a lead. Book an appointment. The next thing we have to do is we have to have a conversion protocol. Clients that I have that are doing really, really well in this online space, they all have a conversion protocol. I think it starts with that great initial conversation. They basically fall in love with you over the phone. Then you send them a quick video that is just, I just wanted you to be able to put a name with a face. No, I don't want to say no one is doing this. Some of my clients are doing this. Very few agents are doing this. That could be in and of itself be enough to differentiate you. Then we're going to send them some high quality, really cool materials. Then we're going to follow up after we know they've gotten the materials and had a chance to look at them. We're going to see if we could acquire a client. We're going to set them down and have a consultation. On the listing side, it's obviously a listing presentation, and I want to keep imploring y'all that on the buyer side, what it amounts to is it ends in where a listing presentation ends in a listing agreement. This thing ends in a buyer's agreement, and ultimately we take those people to contract. You have to have fabulous materials. This is a client of mine, Amber Munnick. Fantastic buyer's guide, fantastic seller's guide. And so it's just immediately, she has a great conversation. Her Zillow conversion rates are absolutely unmatched. It's incredible. But it's because she's put the protocols in place, right? She's a wonderful person, number one. She has a great conversation with people. But then here we go. Now we start the process. And she has materials to match the situation. Guys, if you're on here and you've been on these calls for a while and you don't have a buyer's packet or a seller's packet, come on. You have to have these things in today's market. You also should do this.
Hi, Tom. Wade Frederick here. Thank you so much for agreeing to meet with me next week. Listen, we've sent this packet to you. It gives you some information about our company, tells you a little bit more about us and the way that we work. We'll dig into the details when we get together next week, but I just wanted to let you know how excited I am that you're taking time out of your day to meet with me. So have a great week. I'll see you next week, and have a good day. Bye-bye.
All right, guys, so here's the deal. I make contact with you. Whether it's a referral, whether it's an online lead, it doesn't really matter. I make contact with you. You have a great conversation with me. You send me a quick little video. Just wanted you to put a name with a face, looking forward to the potential of working with you. Then you overnight a packet or you hand deliver it to me if you can. And when I open up that packet, it has these unbelievable materials about the home buying and or selling process. It has a video card from me. And all of a sudden, this consumer is going to go, wow, this is different than any experience I've ever had with a realtor. If you want to convert online leads, guys, this is the world. And I had another experience with another client this week, and they shared this story. They received a referral from someone, and then basically they got busy, and they admitted, like, I didn't follow through with my process. They didn't get the deal. The people bought a house from somebody else, and I'm here to tell you, will this work every single time? No, it won't work every single time, because ultimately you will discover they had a better relationship or a deeper relationship with another realtor. But we have got to stay in this lane of trying to maximize every one of these leads that we get. So once the meeting is set, overnight the packet, hand deliver. So like in Tyler's case of the call, should have had a buyer packet with him, right? That he could have hand delivered it to them. He didn't need to bring the listing packet because they're renting. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to allow our materials to differentiate us from the other realtors that these people may have talked to, right? I will guarantee you it would differentiate him from the agent that they thought they were working with, because they can't even say what her name is, right? This is how this works. The packet
Wayne,
should include a handwritten note from you. Yes, I'm sorry.
we have
Sorry,
a question. Do the buyer packets and seller packets need to be a PDF so that they can be emailed? The person here is saying that they have hard copies, but should these packets ever be emailed?
It would be really good to have a PDF of them, but I'm going to tell you that emailing them is the last resort. Okay? I am telling you, you need to go spend some money to really wow someone and overnight it to them. Okay? Don't just default to sending them emails of PDFs. Make this an unbelievable experience for people. So yes, because there are times when, for whatever reason, you can't, maybe the people are coming in town the next day, and they live out of town. You can't hand deliver it. You can't overnight it. It won't get there. Then you would use the PDFs. Okay. Bottom line, if you're on a very limited budget, of course, do the PDFs. But optimally, you're overnighting or hand delivering. All right. Should also include a handwritten note, the video card, and the appropriate packet for the situation. The other thing I would tell y'all to do, because I had this pop up last week with someone, they're only printing packets off when they need them. Well, if you only print packets off when you need them, you won't need them nearly as often as if you print off, say, 50 packets and you set them on your desk where you have to stare at them every day. This is just a psychological thing. And you look at those packets and you go, wow, I need to get these in people's hands. And maybe it makes you be a little bit better on a call. Maybe it makes you go out and knock on a door. I don't know. But I think it will. I used to use that trick myself. You get a whole bunch of things sitting there and you're like, well, I got to do something with these. I can't throw them away. That's why I've always teasingly told agents they needed to store their real estate signs in their office where they had to stare at them every day rather than putting them in a storage shed where they're out of sight, out of mind. If you had like 20 signs against the wall in your office, I guarantee you'd look at them and go, I really need to get those in somebody's yard. Maybe that makes you make another follow-up call, write a note to a past client. I don't know. A lot of this is psychology. You got to embrace video at every level, guys. It's just a thing. And again, as we always say, or just decide you're not going to, but quit beating yourself up over the video that you think you should shoot and you never do. Okay? But you're going to have to supplement that or offset that with better materials, better conversations, more notes, more of this, more of that. The easiest business model of all has always been be good, be nice, and stay in touch. Now, be great, be nice, stay in touch. We are going to look back on these Wednesdays with Wayne in 3 years and go, wow, we saw this coming, didn't we? We saw this coming. And then the question is going to be 3 years from now, did we put the things in place? Did y'all put the things in place that it took to be able to not only survive, but thrive in a changing real estate market, like to really munch market share if you really want to. This is where this industry is right now. There's no doubt about it. It is crystal clear to me. I've had multiple conversations with my broker clients about this. And the bottom line in all of this is just really simple. Just become elite. Just become elite. Stay in your lane. Do the things that you know you need to do for your business model. Generate leads and start providing an outstanding customer experience for every consumer, every single solitary time, because that is the one thing y'all can do the internet can't. Online cannot give you an unbelievable customer experience. And yet, if you ever have if you're a business customer of Wayfair and you buy something on Wayfair through a business account, the first thing that they did for me was they sent me my own personal shopper. And I got this email. It's like, "Hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm your personal shopper at Wayfair. I'll help you navigate what you need." And I sat there and I thought, wow, I never got this at my local store. And here I got it online. Become elite. The elite is where quality of life is. Elite is where more income is. Elite, just stay in your lane. Figure out how you want to do this. Align yourself with the brokers that help you do these things, that are willing to have these conversations with you. This is what's important. This is what's important in our industry right now. I could go off on a tangent and I won't, but I did do some quick math the other day. We sell about 5 million properties in the U.S. every year. 4.6 to 5.2, whatever it is. And, to me, if this is your gig, right? I mean, this is what you're doing. You ought to be able to, surely you could sell a house a month, couldn't you? I mean, really, if you really dedicated it to it, couldn't you sell a house a month or sell something a month? I mean, I'll give you full credit for a $10,000 lot sale. You could at least sell something every month. Well, if our industry, if that was really the standard, right, one a month, you realize we only need 400,000 realtors in the U.S. to sell 5 million houses if 400,000 people were selling on an average of one a month. It's 400,000 people. We have 1,559,000 realtors in the United States right now, as of last month. And I know I've seen online where people are saying 63,000 people left the industry this year. Well, in February, we had 1,520,000, I think it's 22,000 realtors. So apparently 63,000 left, but 90,000 more people came in. And it's not helping y'all. But you're going to, because of that dynamic, you're going to have to step it up in a massive, massive way. Become elite. I'm a very competitive individual, so I've never understood mailing it in. And I'm not saying you guys mail it in, I'm not. What I'm saying is what was cutting edge in the previous iteration of our industry is no longer cutting edge. The bar the consumer is laying out for us continues to rise, and we've got to go get ahead of the bar and not be chasing the bar. So in that vein, our next session will not be webinar format like these normally are. We're going to go do an old school Zoom meeting, and I want to try to have a mastermind with you guys rather than this hierarchical thing where I tell you what y'all ought to be doing. I want to do a mastermind. I want you to bring your situations to the table via Zoom, and we'll talk about possible dialogues. There's so much information, there's so much wealth of knowledge among the people that are on here that I think it's whatever you're dealing with, I guarantee you somebody else in the Wednesdays with Wayne platform has already dealt with it, can tell you how it comes out. So that's what we're going to do on August the 9th. Take a little bit of a break from the norm, right? It'll be you guys interacting with each other, and I'll just moderate, hopefully. And then the next session we're going to do, I believe it's the 26th of August. That's going to be about leverage. I think it's because I had this conversation a month ago with someone about leveraging buyers and what that looked like, and they said, I have no idea what you're even talking about. So I'm going to talk to you about how to take the people that you are working with and how to try to leverage those people perhaps into more business, more opportunities, and things like that. So that's the protocol that's coming up August 9th. We'll either have massive attendance or nobody will show up because they're going to think it's going to turn into like a role play thing. But that's okay, either one. I never worry about the people that aren't here. I just worry about the ones that are and trying to bring value. So, guys, thank you very much. Feel free to reach out to me anytime you want to. And with that, I'll open up for questions if we have any. Maddie?
As always, you're welcome to ask your question yourself. You can raise your hand and we can give you permission to speak, or you can type it into the chat or the Q&A function. I'm happy to ask it for you. We did have one come through in the Q&A. They were asking what all should be included in these packets. And just to let you all know, we will send you examples of the buyer and the seller packets and the follow-up information that your brokers receive. But Wayne, is there anything else other than the packet itself and the note card, the personalized note and the video card that they should be including in there?
No, not in the packet. That's enough. Yeah, that's enough to differentiate at that second level. Yeah, just that.
Perfect.
Okay. I mean, you could throw in some people throw in like a, $10 Starbucks or $10 Panera card or something and say, look forward to having a cup of coffee with you. But that kind of depends on where you're meeting them, I guess. So other than that, no, not really. Okay. Well, hearing no more questions, guys, as always, we so appreciate you. And I know it's in the middle of summer, the selling season. I don't know where you are. It's 100 degrees where I am right now. And, but thank you so much for taking time out of your busy summers. And as always, we're here. We'll help you any way we possibly can, I promise. Feel free to reach out, either via email or that's my cell phone, so you can send me a text, and I'm happy to try to help any way I can. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye.